Welcome to the Bothell City Council regular meeting of May 17th, 2016. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So all council members are here. I'm going to go down to the podium and do three proclamations. So I'm going to move down there right now. Is it working? Okay. So we have three proclamations this week. The first one is to celebrate National Public Works Week. So whereas public works infrastructure, facilities, and services are integral parts of our community, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewer, streets, drainage, engineering, development services, public buildings, city equipment, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these infrastructure and programs, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of this infrastructure, as well as its planning, design, construction, and maintenance, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of Bothell's public works personnel, and whereas the success of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff the Public Works Department is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. And whereas the year 2016 marks the 56th annual National Public Works Week, and it should be recognized as Public Works Always There. Now therefore, I, Andrew John Rayum, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim May 15th through the 21st as the National Public Works Week. And I'm going to give this to our Public Works Director, Aaron Leonhardt. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and happy Public Works Week to all of you. We are always there. We take great pride in providing just the day-to-day mundane sort of services that we hope people don't feel they have to think about. So I would like to invite council and the community to our Sustainamania celebration on June 4th. That is an extension of Public Works Week for us, and we will have lots of our staff there and have trucks that kids can climb all over and get to know us a little bit better. So thank you very much, and happy Public Works Week. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Just to pile onto that, I've done public works for 16 years, and I can tell you for sure the nature and quality of the people that do public works are really a breed of their own, and they're good people, and they do the services that all of us basically don't know about unless they go wrong. So the next proclamation is the Bothell Safe Boating Week. The auxiliary flotilla is here to take the award, so you guys can come up whenever you want. Whereas on average 700 people die each year in boating related accidents in the United States, with the vast majority of those accidents caused by human error and poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today if they had worn a life jacket. And whereas the city of Bothell encompasses the Sammamish River as well as numerous lakes and other waterways, and whereas a large number of Bothell residents of all ages engage in recreational boating, and whereas the mission of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla 21 is to promote and improve recreational boating safety by teaching boating safety courses and conducting vessel safety checks. Now, therefore, I, Andrew John Rayum, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through the 27th, next week, Bothell Safe Boating Week. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor, and would like to thank the City of Bothell for your ongoing support, because we do conduct boating safety classes here in your, let's see, it's the Lytle House in the park on a regular basis through the Parks Department. We conduct vessel safety checks all over the city. And again, thank you for your support of recreational boating safety.
Thank you. And the last but not least, the third proclamation is Affordable Housing Week, and I believe you're, sorry, I don't have your name. Or do I do? Chris Jowell. And you're going to do a presentation afterwards? Okay. So here we go. Whereas people should have access to safe, healthy, and affordable homes within communities of opportunity, and whereas studies have found that each $100 increase in median rent results in 15% increase in homelessness in metro areas and 39% increase in nearby suburbs and rural areas. Wow. Whereas the combined cost burden of housing plus transportation can be substantially reduced by locating affordable housing opportunities in proximity to transit. And whereas the Association of Washington Cities determined that human services, homelessness, and affordable housing was a critical priority for the 2016 legislative session. And whereas united in an effort to raise public awareness, communities throughout the King County and participating in local Affordable Housing Week efforts to inform the public of the critical need to preserve and or increase affordable housing in our communities. And whereas the city, as part of the Growth Management Act, has adopted a housing element as part of its comprehensive plan, which includes goals and policies to address housing needs for households of all income levels and types of household, including the homeless and persons with special needs. And whereas the city is a member of ARCH, a nationally recognized organization that supports the efforts of the members to create affordable housing in our city and communities throughout East King County. Now, therefore, I, Andrew John Rayum, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through the 22nd as Affordable Housing Week in the City of Bothell. There you go. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here to talk about Affordable Housing Week. My name is Chris Jowell, and I'm the Executive Director at Imagine Housing. We're a East Side Affordable Housing Development Group. We also provide supportive services for our residents, but mostly I'm here because I'm a proud Bothell resident. And I want to thank the city for being one of 20 cities to approve proclamations as part of Affordable Housing Week. This is the first Affordable Housing Week. We hope to do this on an annual basis to bring awareness to the needs of affordable housing in all of East King County, or all of King County. And again, I want to recognize the city of Bothell for their participation in Affordable Housing Week. I'm here as a representative from the Housing Development Consortium. The Housing Development Consortium is a member organization made up of nonprofits and other interested parties interested in affordable housing that come together to work on housing policy issues in King County. Our mission is that, or our vision is that all people have a safe, healthy, and affordable home in a community of opportunity. That's why I raised my family in Bothell, is I felt this was the community that was the best fit for my family and to raise my family, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'd like to bring that opportunity to more families. So what is affordable housing? Housing is considered affordable when people pay 30% of their income towards their housing costs. If you're paying more than 30% of your income, you're considered cost burden. If you're paying more than 50% of your income for housing costs, you're considered extremely cost burden. And in this market, some people can afford market rate housing, others cannot. So affordable housing and housing is generally part of the fabric of a healthy community. And with stable, affordable housing, you'll find that kids have more success in schools. You find that you have better health outcomes as people don't have to make choices between rent and medications. You also find that people have a higher quality of housing, so they're not having issues related to living in inferior or substandard housing. Investments in affordable housing also create tax revenue and jobs. Believe me, when we build affordable housing, the contractors and the subcontractors I'm working with are not nonprofits. They're for-profit entities, so that money is going back into the community. And affordable housing located near transit is just smart. It gives people access to opportunities and jobs. It's also important that people who live in the community and work in our community, or let me rephrase that, people who work in our community, it's important that they can live here. Keeps people off the, reduces traffic impacts, and we need a vibrant, diverse community. So who needs affordable housing? Well, here's some examples of different, and I won't go through all of them, different jobs that people and wages they earn, and their need for affordable housing. And I'll also say, personally, I have a son who graduates from college next year. He needs affordable housing. I don't have a basement for him to live in. It'd be nice for him to be able to stay in the community in which he was raised. So some statistics about cost burden households in the city of Bothell. You'll see that very low income residents, that's households with incomes below 50% of area median. You'll see the significant numbers that are cost burdened and extremely cost burdened. Same for the low income residents, which is considered to 80% and below. And then all residents. So there is an issue across the spectrum of incomes as it relates to people who are paying more for housing than what's generally accepted. The other thing I'll note as it relates to this is that the statistic is that for every $100 in rent or rental increases, on average, there's a 15% increase in homelessness. So families are living on the edge. So housing affordability is really important and stable to keep families stable and out of homelessness. Homelessness is different. We're used to seeing homeless people, on the streets that you think of downtown Seattle. The fact is families are falling into homelessness because the cost of housing is so high. This is a housing cost issue. So what I'd like the city to consider are a number of different opportunities to address the situation, different policies that the city could consider and look towards adopting. There's incentive zoning opportunities. There's working more closely with ARCH, which is the regional coalition that helps provide funding for affordable housing and coordination of affordable housing efforts on the east side. Working on an affordable housing strategy plan and reducing barriers to access for low-income tenants. What's important here is that we're intentional about how we want to address the affordable housing issue. I also want to acknowledge that there's a lot of conversations going on in a lot of cities on the east side, and it'd be very important that we coordinate those efforts and we work together. I'm having these similar conversations with Kirkland and Redmond and Bellevue and everywhere else. There's only one of me. It'd be nice to be able to have this conversation on a more collective basis so that we can attack this issue as a larger community. So in shaping the housing policies, I think it's important that we look at promoting a variety of housing options. I think it's important also, I'm not going to go through all of this, but as we look through those variety of options, think about how your nonprofit partners can work with your for-profit developers. As a nonprofit developer, we have different resources and different commitments to what we can bring. We can serve lower affordability or provide lower affordability, but it's part of a fabric and again, a greater spread of affordable housing. At Imagine Housing, we serve homeless households, homeless veterans, seniors, low-income families. We can do that, but when we partner with other developments and we can bring more affordability to all the developments that happen in Bothell, again, we're addressing the issue on a greater basis. And this is a great time of prosperity in this city with everything that's going on. And all that's doing is driving up the housing costs. So we need to be intentional about how we address them. Here's some of the resources just for reference on where you can get some more information about affordable housing and the statistics around affordable housing in our community or in King County. And please call me with any questions. I would love to invite you to an open house that we're doing on Wednesday afternoon at an apartment building in Kirkland called Francis Village. That open house is from 3 to 5 on Wednesday afternoon if you can make it. I know it's not the only open house that's being conducted as part of Affordable Housing Week, but please come and see. And I want to thank James McNeil for coming to see Francis Village a couple weeks back. So again, just an example of what affordable housing can be, and actually in Joshua too for coming and seeing our other apartment building at South Kirkland Park and Ride, Velocity. Affordable housing can be beautiful and attractive and an asset to the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Freed.
Great. Question for you, Chris. On one of the slides or a couple slides before this, you talked about promoting use of vacant property.
Yep.
So is that you're asking the cities to identify vacant pieces of property that we might place an affordable housing incentive on, or what is your suggestion?
So there's a couple of ways we can do that. That's one option, but one option is to make the property affordable or make it available to nonprofit organizations to have kind of a first right of development, or find a partnership, or be intentional about what you want to do with that property to include an affordable housing element. The development we did at the South Kirkland Park and Ride, the cities, in that case it was both Kirkland and Bellevue, were very intentional about making affordable housing a component of that. So we developed that with Polygon Northwest, but that affordable housing was a strong component of the overall plan. So that's what brought those units online.
So in the case of the project that you have in Kirkland, which is a beautiful one, Velocity, or Kirkland Crossings or something?
Kirkland Crossing is the Polygon development.
So you did a beautiful job there, and it's fun to see the faces of the residents that you have there, and I actually got to go to your fundraiser as well, and just to hear the stories of people's lives that are actually changed by this. You mentioned the vacant property. Are you mentioning more of a sense that if it's city vacant property, or would you point to us to try to reach out to vacant property that's privately owned?
Well, I think that's an option too, but I would say all publicly owned property. So again, we developed at the Park and Ride, so there's opportunities to do redevelopments on King County property or King County Metro or whatever other public entity might hold it. But certainly if there's opportunities around other vacant lots for us to be aware of that development, or as you're considering incentives around what should be developed or what your zoning will be, an encouragement to have affordability as a part of that. And to the extent you can bring your nonprofit partners into that, again, you're going to get deeper affordability and kind of a greater investment in time. We're going to own these buildings for pretty much forever, right? So when you're making those kinds of incentives, think about the return you get by working with your nonprofit partners.
Okay. You also mentioned on the same slide with all the colors and the people in the little city about the Affordable or Arts Trust Fund.
Yes.
About how cities can reach across borders and pay into that. We are involved with that. Obviously, Arthur Sullivan comes up and talks to us. But what kind of number does that actually accumulate to, and how big of a difference can that make?
Yeah, right now, the Arts Trust Fund has been flat in terms of its revenue for 10, 15 years. So it's at about $1.2, $1.5 million. Which hasn't kept up with the cost of development by any stretch. So the reality is it doesn't go very far. As compared to the city of Seattle, which has a housing levy. They're able to, on a single development, invest anywhere from $7 to $12 million to help cover the capital costs. We just don't have that resource in East King County. So finding ways in which we can continue to increase investment in the Arch Housing Trust Fund, whether that's through cities through their general fund, or if we can incent some legislative change that allows cities that the state might provide a local option on some tax that cities could get together and find another way to support funding for Arch. There's a lot of different opportunities to do that, but yes, funding for the trust fund is critical.
One of the greatest fundings I think a city can provide is the opportunity for multifamily tax exemption.
Yeah.
So that's probably something we as a city should focus on.
Yeah, the MFTE program is a tool that the city can use to bring affordability to developments, and it's an offer that can be extended beyond just nonprofit partners, but for-profits as well that want to bring affordability. Again, it's that investment that you can make of a public resource, or in this case, foregoing public resource for a period of time to help bring that affordability to that development. So that's a tool in the toolkit that cities have available now, and one that I'm talking to as many cities about as I can.
Okay. Well, Arthur is a great resource for us, but like you say, coming around the table with more people with a collective passion, it would be interesting to see what we could do together.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversations going on, so I encourage the city to be part of that.
Thank you, Chris.
Great.
All right, thank you. So review of upcoming public engagement opportunities. Do you have that slide? Waiting for the slide. There they are. So the first thing is on June 4th, Sustainamania that the Public Works Director already mentioned. It's at the the Operations Center up by Red Robin in Thrasher's Corner. The next is the Capital Facilities Plan Open House number 2. It's on June 15th from 5:30 to 7 here at City Hall in this room. The third one is the Waste Mobile from June 24th through the 26th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Seattle Times Building. And that's it. Okay. And so next is on the agenda is the meeting agenda approval. Is there any changes to tonight's agenda? Councilmember McNeil?
So I had a couple of items on the consent agenda. Is now the appropriate time to
Would you like to pull them off the consent agenda?
pull? I had just had a couple questions on a couple items, yes.
Yeah, we should probably pull them then.
Okay,
So
so it'd
which,
be AB 16-80 and AB 16-083.
It was 16-083 and 16-080, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any other change? Those have been pulled from the consent agenda. Is there any other changes? Councilmember Freed?
I'd like to pull 082, Riverside Channel.
Just the construction? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Any other changes? Councilmember Sandberg?
And I wanted to pull 16081.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
So we have no consent agenda then. Okay, well, we'll just take them one by one. Is there any other changes to tonight's agenda? Councilmember Spivey?
Great. I would like to have a discussion and possible vote on opening up executive sessions related to the city manager to include his evaluations while he's been here.
So when would you like to add that? Probably before executive session, because we'll be in there for, I've been told, at least an hour. And that's at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you want to do it before we go to executive session?
Yes.
Okay. And that is okay, I got it. Anything else? Councilmember Spivey?
No, that was it. That was just the possible vote on opening up those executive sessions.
Okay.
Clarification.
Councilmember Freed?
What's the executive session about? Is it property, legal matters?
We've got a slew of things. Active city manager?
That's correct, and everything you see right there, property acquisition, personnel matters, labor relations, litigation, and possible action, everything on your agenda.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so let's take the consent agenda one by one. I'm sorry, let's do projected agenda first. And then, Mr. Trotzen, you had something you wanted to start off with?
Yeah, I just wanted to advise you all that based on agenda items that are piling up, we would like to perhaps propose to you that we use one of the next 2 Tuesdays, because May actually has 5 Tuesdays in it, for a special meeting. So we haven't come to a firm conclusion on that yet, but just wanted to put that out there for you.
So council members, can you sound off on your availability for the next 2 Tuesdays in May? Just 1 second here. I can do the 24th, and I can do the 31st. Councilmember Sandberg?
I can do the 24th, but not the 31st.
Okay. McNeil, anybody else ready? Mr. Agnew?
I can do the 24th, but not the 31st.
I'm just writing this down. Are you guys right now? They're writing it down. Okay. Councilmember Agnew can do both Tuesdays in May.
I can do both.
Deputy Mayor can do both.
I can do the 24th, not the 31st.
I cannot do the 24th, and I would be late on the 31st.
Okay. Any other items for the projected agenda? Deputy Mayor?
I'd like an update on the Historic District and Lazy Husband Road signage.
Okay. Sooner than later, or just whatever?
I was looking at June 14th. It looked like that was a shorter agenda.
Is that doable? I imagine that's the Community Development Director.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
June 14th is fine.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sandberg.
So on the projected agenda, it looks like June 28th is the next time that we're going to talk about potential ballot measures. And I'm wondering, and then again, we would talk about it on July 19th with a potential approval date for that, and we need to approve before the end of July to have it on the November ballot. So I'm wondering if we need to have any more meetings scheduled in June or July regarding the ballot measures to provide. I think we had some direction last week, but I don't know if there was consensus about what form this ballot measure would take. Because staff presented potential options, and then we created a hybrid, or there were a couple of people that were in favor of a hybrid. So I'm just concerned that we haven't provided enough definition for what we want to see for that bond measure in November. And without providing that definition, we're not giving potential pro and con groups the opportunity to create their position statements regarding the ballot measure. So I don't know if staff felt like they had enough direction, but maybe we need more meetings than just June 28th and then approval on July 19th.
Acting City Manager?
Yeah, we took down all the guidance that you gave us last week, and we're preparing to put something together to bring back to you and just clarify with you if that meets the guidance that you gave us. So we can certainly do that before the 28th, if that's preferred.
And then do we select pro and con groups the night that we would approve a resolution moving forward to the ballot? Or do we select pro-con groups ahead of time?
I don't believe we actually select the pro and con groups as pro and con. Nope, City Attorney, he's ready to chime in. Go ahead.
You do have the authority and responsibility to appoint pro and con groups. You do have
Uh-oh.
bad batteries. You do have the authority and responsibility to appoint pro and con groups as part of putting measures on the ballot. They are usually due, I have to think about this, either the deadline, I believe they're due by the deadline that the ballot proposition is to be submitted. It gets delivered to the county auditor responsible for the election, and they will then take care of all of the communication with those groups in terms of getting the statements prepared and then timely placed into the election handout.
So does June 24th sound reasonable for you, Councilmember Sandberg, to have that come back? Is that what you were recommending, Mr. Trotzen?
Or June 21st, and that said, we haven't appointed pro-con groups for the fireworks advisory ballot measure either. So we need to do that as well. And I would say, because we've already voted to put that forward on the November ballot, we should do that sooner rather than later so that people can, compose their statements and make their arguments. So as soon as staff can bring that back to us.
Okay, we'll get it fit in.
Any other changes to the projected agenda? Clarifying question from Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I apologize. I just found on the projected agenda the Landmark Preservation Board recommendation for the Historic District, so scratch that. But I would like an update on the Lazy Husband Road signage on the 14th.
Yeah, related, yes, we've already scheduled the Historic District.
My apologies,
So
I missed it.
Will that date serve?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. On the signage, waiting for a recommendation from the Historic Advisory Board. We said we'd bring it to council anytime they were ready.
Well, I'm ready.
So if they're ready to make a recommendation, we'll just prepare an agenda bill for it.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other changes to the projected agenda? Councilmember Freed.
A couple items. It looks like there's potentially a meeting scheduled on the 28th of June or the 4th of July. Is really the reason to have that meeting the Fitzgerald-Sudbury collaboration process or not? I'm just wondering if some of these items could meet to our regular scheduled meeting on July 12th. Or are we just trying to move forward with the Fitzgerald review? This is the first time I've seen this scheduled. Maybe it was here last week, but I don't know.
Are you saying you don't want to have that meeting? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm just wondering if we can allocate those items to the prior week or the following week on July 12th.
So from what I understand, we've got pretty packed. Can we not have that meeting? I mean,
I'm sorry, I was talking to the fire chief, and let me cover what he said first, which is that I'll point you to July 19th, when appointments of the pro-con committees for fireworks, advisory ballot measures, and other potential ballot measures for November. So that's, if July 19th is good, that's taken care of.
There you go.
And let me get back to Councilmember Freed's question about July 12th.
Yeah, just curious, June 28th or July 4th, there's a few items that are listed on there. Not really, many are taking a lot of time. I just didn't know if they could be allocated and condensed in other meetings, even the June 4th, June 12th, or the July 12th meetings, rather than adding another meeting.
We'll take a look at that. I can't tell you right off the top here. I'd have to talk to staff about which ones could be condensed.
Okay. And the next meeting or item I want to add to the agenda would be a conversation regarding a potential special or independent investigation. We heard from the public last week overwhelmingly of their perception that there was wrongdoing, potentially violation of the protocol manual, as well as state law regarding the firing of Bob Stowe. I don't know that anybody argues that the council has the ability to hire or fire city managers. The process that was followed is what lists suspect. So I would suggest that we put something on our protocol or projected agenda to look at an independent person reviewing the process.
would anybody like to comment on that?
I'd like
Deputy
to
Mayor.
make a motion to postpone that discussion until after the executive session this evening.
I don't know if we need a motion,
Yeah, I
but
don't know
I'll
if we need a
second
motion
it.
for that. I guess we give it, I mean, it'd be smarter probably to wait to hear the executive session tonight before we make a decision like that to put on the agenda.
I would say that before we invest city resources, if there are members of the community that want to make a formal accusation as an OPMA violation, I think that the members of the community are free to do so, and when there is a formal complaint, I will respond. And I have spoken to the city attorney. I'm happy to respond in executive session, and we can talk about this accusation of OPMA after the executive session as well. But if there is that concern, then they should file a formal complaint. And then the city can respond, or individual members will respond.
I would concur with that. Councilmember Spivey?
Well, Councilmember Freed asked to put something on the projected agenda, and this is the time that we do that during projected agenda discussion. I have nothing to hide, and I think that I've heard enough from the community that says, you know, we shouldn't have to wait for them to file the paperwork. I think that let's go ahead and have ourselves, you know, have somebody coming in and essentially audit the way things happened and see what it comes up with. I would welcome an independent audit. Again, I have nothing to hide, and so I would say let's put it on the projected agenda for the next meeting or two and move forward on it.
Any other conversation? Councilmember Sandberg?
I have nothing to hide as well. Our attorney has told us that we have followed the procedures of state law multiple times. I have nothing to hide. I don't want to spend the money. We are within our rights as council to make our only personnel decision, and we did that. And the city attorney has already weighed in that processes were followed. And so I think it's a waste of money to have an independent investigation.
Councilmember Spivey?
Thank you. I don't think anybody's arguing that the council has the right to hire and fire a city manager. That's not what I'm hearing. And the RCW that the chair had referred and has been referred to cites our right to do that. But I'm hearing concern that there's other violations out there that may have occurred, to include our protocol manual. And so what's the harm in having it done? To date, this council's already taken just over $100,000 worth of legal work and thrown it away. This council's also taken.
Councilmember Spivey, you're out of order for talking about motions and decisions of this body. It's inappropriate. It's in our protocol manual that we aren't supposed to badmouth the decisions of this council.
Mayor, I'm just taking and making reference to Councilmember Sandberg's discussion on cost, and I'm just giving a history of cost decisions that this council has made. That's all I'm doing.
Well, it sounded pretty derogatory to the body, and that's inappropriate according to our protocol manual.
Well, I'm gonna guess that it sounded derogatory to you because the body as a whole has not weighed in.
So I'm the chair, and I'm supposed to rule over the proceedings of this meeting. And yes, it was derogatory, and I'm asking you to not make comments like that.
It was a
Do you want to
statement
take
of
a vote?
fact.
Should we have a vote on whether that comment was, we don't need to go into tailspin every meeting that we have. I think we can move on from this discussion. How about we go to executive session tonight, and we can bring this up at our next meeting, whether we need to have file an Open Public Meeting Act against ourselves.
I don't believe we need to file one against ourselves. I believe we just choose to have it done. And I guess making a statement of fact is inappropriate, so I'm done.
Okay,
So
so moving on the agenda,
will there be one scheduled or not?
you're not noticed by the chair. Did you have something you wanted to say, Councilmember Freed?
I sure do, since you let other people speak twice. Last year, the public came forward because there was a perception of wrongdoing. I voted to release the executive session material because I knew that I had done nothing wrong. Also supported an independent investigation because I knew at the end of that, it would be proven I didn't violate any principles. I'm encouraging you as a council to take that opportunity for that very freeing process.
Great. Okay, so let's move on to the consent agenda items. First item pulled was AB 16-080, consider approval of April 2016 vouchers. I don't remember who pulled that. It's Councilmember McNeil.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple questions with the finance director. More just clarifying, what would the additional rent for April COB properties be for?
It's for the Kidder Matthews contract. They take care of the facility here.
Of the city hall?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a management fee that we pay?
It is the actual cost. It's a facilities maintenance contract, and it's over and above the principal and interest off the bond.
Okay, thank you. And then US Bank March purchases, it's kind of just grouped together. It's like a $31,000 charge. Is that just miscellaneous things?
Yeah, it's everybody's pro cards throughout the city, and we only have, our financial system only allows so many characters in a field. So it's viewable. Anybody can come and see those if they would like to.
Okay, and then the last one is Thrive Advertising for Tourism.
That would be a tourism cost, and I don't remember exactly what it was from, but the PIO tourism coordinator can answer. I will say that everything is audited, and they actually go through an audit twice. We have an original, and state law requires that. We audit every invoice. It has to be a certified invoice. And then it actually goes through a second process to look for contract management and all that type of stuff. So we have multiple layers of auditing that's happening with every invoice.
Hi, just to respond to your question about Thrive, as you know, we get lodging tax money from hotel night stays, and we have a contract with Red Propeller, who manages our tourism program, and Thrive is a media buyer that works with Red Propeller, and they've gotten us some amazing deals on advertising so that we can bring more people to Bothell to raise more revenue.
Fantastic, thank you.
Any other questions on the April 2016 vouchers? Councilmember Sandberg?
So regarding the first question, the COB properties, additional rent, so does that mean that we're going to be paying COB Properties $21,000 every month for facility maintenance costs of this building? Is that a recurring monthly expenditure?
Yes, and it's an overall cost. It includes electricity, it includes all the different utilities, that type of thing. It's a full-time facility management company and that COB basically hired, and the city does provide janitorial services here, but they employed an outside company to actually facilitate the facility needs, yeah.
And so we can't coordinate our own utility billing because we don't own this property yet, and so we have to pay another company to do that facility management?
It's a straight pass-through, cost for cost. I will say that when we went into this, it was kind of decided that we would look at a management company to do the not the janitorial, but the actual facility management for the first year, given that it's a LEED Gold building and that type of thing, and make sure that we could have a year of watching and seeing how they do it, make sure we have the right skill set within our own city staff in order to take that over. And so that's what has been happening. There's other costs within it. I think the actual admin fee that I think you're referring to is $4,000 a month. That is over and above pass-through costs.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, we could entertain a motion to pass AB 16-080 for approval of the April 2016 vouchers. Moved by Councilmembers Agnew, seconded by Councilmember McNeil. Go ahead and use the voting buttons. Passes unanimously, passes unanimously. Next one is AB 16-081, consider approval of King County Metro Long Range Plan comment letter. Again, I didn't write down who pulled that. Councilmember Sandberg?
Yes, so this is our letter that we're writing to Metro regarding their their comprehensive plan. And I have expressed previously my concerns about changing the transit routes off of 522. But I had never heard this statement before, and I was very concerned about this. It's on page 17 of our agenda packet. And this is the city's response, and it says, Sound Transit's plan to reroute the 535 route in conjunction with Metro's plan to eliminate their current routes serving the 522 Park and Ride effectively abandons the existing King County Park and Ride. That's our downtown Park and Ride. And I am very concerned about that statement. Like I said, this is the first time I've heard this, but I think it's the obvious consequence of trying to move our transit corridor off of 522 and on to 98th and 185th. This is, we've seen this before. Kenmore had a similar situation where it had a park and ride on 68th, and that one disappeared when the new one came online. And I'm really concerned for the reasons I've stated previously, but also that park and ride is adjacent. It's right next to Main Street, and we have done a number of policy choices that have moved the energy and focus and financial support away from Main Street and westward across the Multi-Way Boulevard. And I think this is one more step in that direction. And I think we need to be very careful about changing our transit, because the loss of that downtown park and ride would be a significant deficit for our city, for Main Street, for transit-oriented development. And so I just wanted to highlight that paragraph in that letter because I think it's very concerning. And I hope that we are not on this unchangeable path where that ends up happening.
Mr. Morikawa, are you available to make a comment on this? I recall he discussed this with us earlier. Would you entertain listening? Okay, good.
So I think from the staff point of view, the Sound Transit I-405 decisions on BRT are more concerning than the Metro King County east-west transit. So the decision that we made when we did our downtown was working with all the three agencies. And what they did was they did a study and they determined that at the existing park and ride, 2/3 of the people go to Seattle and 1/3 go up and down I-405. So the solution was we're going to create a new parking structure somewhere along 185th. And again, we wanted to be on 185th, so we moved north because people walk only a certain distance. And if we're on 522, then half of the walking circle is in the green area where nobody really lives. 2/3 of it, we're going to have a 300-car parking garage somewhere on 185th. And we would keep the one for I-405 on 522. And typically what Sound Transit does, their current 535 route, is goes up and down I-405. They service the park and ride at Kaesner, and they service the UW Bothell, and they get back on I-405. The current BRT, when the staff questioned staff in detail, 535 goes away, and they would have more BRT routes going up I-405, excuse me, but they don't get off UW Bothell or the park and ride, which is a concern. So the Metro will still be servicing us east-west. It's really the north-south routes that we're concerned about. And that's what the Sound Transit letter says, and we kind of reiterate that in the Metro letter as well.
But why does it say that the Metro plans to eliminate their current routes serving the existing 522 park and
I
ride?
think they have 1 or 2 routes that go up and down I-405 as well. I think they're going to shorten that up because they're going to convert everything and let the BRT take those routes, basically. So they're working together to try to make the coverage, and essentially what they're doing, I think the dilemma that they're having, and we're getting caught in, is they want to service I-405, they want to have reliable service and the fastest service possible, and by pulling out and servicing the campus and our park and ride, and the park and ride services are downtown, they lose time on I-405. So they're trying to just stay on I-405 and keep going up and down. Well, the city of Bothell and the staff is trying to push them to pull out and service downtown Bothell because we feel like we're growing and we need to be part of the BRT system. And we merit pulling out of I-405. So that's kind of the discussion going on right now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McCrow. Do we entertain a motion to approve? Let me make sure I get the AB right. AB 16081, King County Metro Long Range Plan Comment Letter. Motion to approve. So moved. Moved by Councilmember Agnew. I'll second it. All those in favor? No, wait, vote. Passes unanimously. AB 16-082, consider award of contract with RAS Construction for Sammamish River Side Channel Restoration Project. Was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Great. Question of staff. We got a grant for $315,000 and then an additional one it looked like for $602, but the full budget's $706. What do we do with the excess? Hello. Are you Regina Dirda?
I'm Regina Dirda. I'm the project engineer. So the excess that we currently have, the city of Bothell is responsible for about 10 to, we're saying 17% of our city money goes into that RAS construction budget. And then additional extras from the construction grant. Andy, would you say that, some of the construction grant money that comes in that package pays some of our staff time that we use internally, as well as
the project engineer for
oh, I forgot, the R2. The R2 contract, which is our construction support engineering, which also includes some of our monitoring and report writing that we'll be doing in the first 1 and 2 years of this project. I don't know if that's enough detail.
That's
So-
the next agenda item too.
If I could add just one little thing. In the past on some of these grants, for this particular project, if we were under budget, which was a good thing, the money just goes back to the grantor. So in the past, it's been fairly minor funding.
Okay.
But I would expect we would consider doing the same thing with this one as well.
I mean, in projects, overruns do occur, so it's nice to know the money's there. What I'm wondering, though, is if there's excess money of 100,000 or whatever it might be, the blackberry invasive species along Sammamish River cause issues, and my concern is we're going to spend a good amount of money, and 10 years from now, if we don't move further up the river to take a little bit more care of what's upriver, that this is going to be degraded even in 10 years. Is it possible to use some of that money to expand the scope of the project or not?
Probably not. You'd have to go back into the application process to say we're rescoping the use of it. So it kind of puts you back at square one.
Does it?
And you would end up probably having to give the money back at that point in time and say, okay, let's reallocate it. And here's why we want to do a larger project.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah.
a good answer, and one way we would not want to go. I just thought if there's extra money there and we could even tackle that blackberry issue even further, that would be wonderful.
Right. And we're, under the grants, we are required to maintain that site, the restoration site, for 10 years. There's an operation and maintenance cost with that as well that will most likely chew into the leftover money, so to speak.
Okay.
So we fully expect we'll most likely max out the grants that
Well,
we do have.
You've thoroughly answered my question. Thank you
Okay.
both.
You're welcome.
Was there an additional one for the RAS portion and the?
Yeah, we might as well hit that. So who pulled 16-083? Councilmember McNeil, why you got him up there?
So I was curious on what is the total grants received by the city for this? Is that a question for the,
For design and construction?
yes, total.
I do have that number. So for the design phase, the total budget was 310, of which grant funded 272,700, so approximately 90% of the design budget. And then if you look at the construction, we have the 950, we kind of discussed that, the 957,000 Salmon Recovery Board, King County Cooperative Management funding, which we will be responsible for paying about 17% of. Well, not of, we're paying 17% of the RAS.
Okay, so when I did the math numbers, to me, I get a balance of about 671 after the consulting fees. Is that about right?
600.
Yeah, because I think we total paid 225, 182 to R2 consultants.
Correct.
Does that sound right? And then the new request is going to be 60,395 for a total of 285.
Correct.
And then
Roughly.
the balance would be 671. So the question I was going to ask is the 671 enough to complete the project? And if not, what would we be on the hook for?
If I understand correctly, the answer is that the early design costs have already been paid for and accounted for. And so if you're wrapping those up into this total available grant funding that we just got in over the last year and a half, those numbers aren't going to match up because it's missing the first $260,000 that we got on separate grants starting back in 2013. So I think that's maybe where the confusion lies.
So that those original grants are what bring it to the 957, correct? The total project.
If you do the design and the construction together, it would be a little over $1 million, because I'm looking at 310,000 with RASs. I'm going to round it up to 787, so that's a little bit over $1 million.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get to what we've received in grants and what we're going to pay out for the overall project to see where the bottom line is. That's all I was trying to get to.
That's a good question.
So how much money is the city, can I interject here?
Absolutely.
How much money is the city paid for this project versus grants? Total construction and design?
Well, so far, just for the design, 32,000 on the design end. On the construction end, I didn't bring my calculator.
Ballpark's fine.
If 17, we'll say 15% of 800,000, I'm rounding everything up, just because my math is. About 120,000.
Is that what you wanted? Okay. So these are really hard grants to get, and I really appreciate your guys' hard effort. I know it takes years to get to this point, so congratulations on multiple rounds of grants and a very competitive pool, and good job, good project. Is there any other questions on the, can we pass these two together? I don't see why not. Do we have a motion to pass AB 16-082 and AB 16-083 for the construction and construction oversight for the Sammamish River Side Channel Restoration Project? Moved by Councilmember McNeil, seconded by Councilmember Agnew. Let's vote. Passes unanimously. Now we have the visitors section. If you haven't had a chance yet, there's yellow sheets probably out by the door there. Please fill it out and give it to the city clerk. Oh, here comes some more. So this is the time of the meeting where visitors can come and give us 3 minutes of comment. Please be advised that do not comment to one council member directly. It would comment to us as a body. The second part is that if a council member asks a question, please wait until I I allow you to answer the question, and that is to protect you from interrogation by council members. So the first person is Carolyn O'Connell.
Hi, my name is Caroline O'Connell, and I am a housing case manager with HopeLink. HopeLink is a local nonprofit that provides critical services for our neighbors living in poverty. So I just work a few blocks away from here, and I'm here tonight just to thank you for proclaiming this week Affordable Housing Week in our city. Each day in my job, I see people struggling to find and to keep their housing. Of 64,000 people that HopeLink helped last year, 95% of them earned less than $33,000 in the prior year. That's less than half of the living wage that it takes to be economically self-sufficient in our region. It's critical that we all work together to seek solutions to make housing more affordable in our community, particularly for families living at less than 50% of the area median income. I also urge you to consider tenant protections that keep our community members from experiencing crisis-inducing rent hikes that can take a family from housed to homeless in a month. Thank you for bringing attention to the reality of our neighbors who are struggling to meet their basic needs. The staff and volunteers at HopeLink are proud to continue to partner with you and to make true affordable housing a reality in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kia Stodola? Maybe Ken? Is it Ken? Okay.
Ken Stodola. So I guess I should say it here. Ken Stodola. I own Suga Fine Art and Framing in downtown Bothell. And is it okay to ask a question first?
You're welcome to ask a question, but we will likely not answer.
Okay. So can the city disclose how much it costs to release the city manager in his contract fulfillment and severance? Yes or no?
We can't answer that at this time.
Okay. I think I read in the Woodinville Weekly it was $200,000. I didn't really know Mr. Stowe on a personal level or on a business level. I probably saw him at a half a dozen city and or Bothell chamber functions and maybe said 30 words to him. But I can't imagine how difficult a person could be to cost that much if that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sue Keenest.
Hello, I'm Sue Keenest, and I watched last Tuesday's meeting, citizens' remarks, so I decided to write a letter to the editor, to the reporter, and I thought I would put it on the record and read it to you. There have been lots of speculations, questions, and even personal accusations surrounding the firing of Bothell's city manager, Bob Stowe. Let's set the record straight, as most of you have. The city council has a legal right, and I dare say a responsibility, to fire the city manager without cause if they have lost confidence in the leadership or his job performance. This was not done in secret or without citizen approval. Last fall, 3 new council members ran an election, each one pounding the streets, listening to voters, and each one handily beating their opponents. The Seattle Times headline on November 3rd, 2015, 6 months ago, reads, "Bothell elects 3 to council who buck city leadership. No secret then and now. We vote for the people who best represent our interests. This is called democracy. Tax money going to developers, including Stowe and his developer friends, and not to infrastructure, maintenance, basic services has become a bad habit at City Hall. Unfortunately, Stowe, some of his staff, and some past council members had a penchant to backroom executive session decisions, a disregard for the taxpaying public, and a self-enrichment attitude. It goes without saying that there has been an atmosphere of my way or the highway. The city manager publicly stated that, quote, Bothell was recession-proof. He said it many, many times. Well, look at us after 10 plus years of his master planning, pretty downtown pictures, increasing traffic, no maintenance money for parks, streets, downtown Main Street, fire department, etc. Bothell is broke, and we're going to have to pay for it. But what galls me the most is Bob Stowe taking credit for recruiting the McMinimans development. McMinimans is in Bothell in spite of Bob Stowe, who tried everything he could to prevent Anderson School from being placed on historic registers, and apparently was willing to replace it with a Walmart if he had to for his grand plan. As far back as 2006, local historians, civic-minded community activists, and Bothell Landmarks Board members were in contact with McMinimans, literally recruiting them. After the city messed up the purchase of the North Shore School District property, all at the taxpayers' expense, McMinimans was the last serious bidder standing to not only preserve Anderson, but develop the entire property. It was a great idea, but not his. Just one more thing to thank the city council for your due diligent, hard work, forward-thinking actions, and for your bravery during this difficult time. Thanks.
Thank you. Next person is Lee Henderson.
Well, my name is Lee Henderson, and I'm actually going to talk about 2 things. I'm going to wear the hat of Alexa's Cafe, which is on Main Street, which I wasn't planning on doing, but I'm going to because I've heard tonight that people think that we're in dire straits, that we're being forgotten, that we don't have enough money, and I have been so proud to build my business 20 years, and every year our business grows. What does that mean? Am I in dire straits? Am I in poverty? Am I broke? No, it's that the city of Bothell takes care of Main Street in the way that it can. We know that we're not going to have the remodeling right now. We understand that. Most of the small businesses on Main Street couldn't afford it if it happened tomorrow. So they need to plan for it. They need to prepare for it. And we work with the city of Bothell. They meet with us and they tell us, the staff tells us what the plans are. And we're part of it. We're not just hanging out there. So please know that Main Street is alive, it's well, it's healthy, and I personally would like to see the park and ride gone because it's a problem. And if it makes it a better problem to be on 185th, that's great. But it's a problem because the UW parks there, other people park there, and nobody looks at it. So but you know, it's a beautiful town, and all of you know how much I love the town I live in and work in. Now, I'm going to switch over to Lee Henderson, not owner of the cafe. And I'm not allowed to name names, as I was told by the mayor. So One of you voted against McMinimans coming to Bothell because it was voted in a single advertised public meeting with discussion and debate and public comment. How could you possibly defend your actions in terminating Bob Stowe with no public comment, no notice, in an unadvertised agenda that you refused to speak to when it happened? And the day that that happened, May 3rd, the silence of 5 of you was loud when that happened. It was so loud that most of you actually cared to discuss things, as I've seen tonight, just sitting here for 25 minutes. Most all of you have opened your mouth and said something, but 5 of you were so silent, a pin could drop and we would have heard it. That is unacceptable. The second thing is 2 of you have only worked with Bob Stowe for all of 4 months, and you felt qualified to fire him in one night while he was out of the country and on vacation. You both ran with transparency and public involvement, and that was your campaign.
Could you wrap up your comments, Ms. Anderson?
You have betrayed your promises to the citizens of Bothell with your behavior.
Next is Bob Wolverton.
Mr. Mayor, I think you've saved me some time in your earlier discussion, the fact that apparently the council believes that a review on violations of the Open Public Meeting Act is basically pretty secure, but I tend to disagree, and I think it would take a legal review to make that determination. And the Washington State Legislature felt so strong about this, they actually published the intent of the notice requirement in the statute. And it reads in part, the intent of that statute regarding notice is to promote transparency in government by requiring meeting agenda to be posted 24 hours in advance to, quote, promote a greater exchange of information so the public can provide meaningful input related to government decisions, close quote. Now, based off of your comments as a body earlier, obviously you have no interest in doing this legal review and you're going to challenge the community to file a complaint on this. So I'll move ahead to one other issue because we don't need to belabor that. But on that May 3rd council meeting, at 2 hours, 29 minutes and 35 seconds into the meeting, Councilmember Freed asked the mayor a question and he said, quote, you mentioned you had legal review, as a question referring to the contract and the resolutions that were before the body at that time. Your answer was, quote, I did, yeah. Then at 2 hours, 30 minutes and 16 seconds, Mr. Mayor, you also said, quote, well, I had attorneys look at it. I didn't have an attorney I paid for to look at the documents, and then whatever else you said beyond that was unintelligible on the record. So I'd like to draw your attention to BMC 2.13.040. In essence, the ethical standards of this city, particularly Section B, Item 7, titled Ex parte Communications, and it reads, in quasi-judicial matters, officials shall publicly disclose substantive information that is relevant to a matter under consideration by the council, which they may have received from sources outside of the public decision-making process. I present to you, Mr. Mayor, that when Councilmember Freed asked you that question, you were bound by this statute to provide that information publicly, and you declined.
Mr. Wolverton, I've kind of trying to give you some space here, but you've called out 2 different council members at multiple times in your testimony, and we started off the meeting saying, please address this as a body. Now, I can also tell you for sure, quasi-judicial does not involve personnel matters. But go ahead. You can finish your statement.
And I understand where you're coming from on personnel matters, but this was at an open meeting that was for discussion and decision by the body. And the way that I read this statute, I believe that you were compelled to answer that question. And therefore, that's why I believe it requires a legal review to clear this cloud from around the council. And that's why I would recommend that the council go ahead and move forward and don't put the burden on the public to file a complaint. Take that upon yourselves. Councilmember Sandberg has a question.
We're not asking people questions from the dais.
I won't ask a question, but I would like to make a statement.
Go ahead.
So I have read the OPMA Act as well, and yes, it does say that agendas need to be published 24 hours in advance. And our agenda always contains, or almost always contains, an agenda item for executive session. And that was published 24 hours in advance. We rarely, if ever, publish the contents of what that executive session will be. The OPMA also doesn't state, it states that an agenda item has to be published 24 hours in advance. It doesn't have to say how detailed that agenda item has to be. So in keeping with our accepted practices, we did post executive session item. It was in a regular meeting, not in a study session. So, and I believe that our legal, our legal staff has confirmed that. The concern about our OPMA violations, I have asked the city attorney what I can say, and they have, I have been advised to say as little as possible so as not to have anything attacked. But I am, after I have conversation with our staff during executive session, I am more than happy to come out to the dais and tell you exactly who I communicated with. And I can confirm for you that I did not violate the OPMA, and neither did the council member that I spoke to. So I'm happy to say that tonight. I want to make sure I get that okay, because anything we say exposes the city to legal challenge and liability. And the last thing I want to do is incur more costs for the city. So that's why we're not saying anything. Because the less we say, the less likely we are to be sued by any number of parties.
So,
And so,
Councilmember Freed, or Sandberg, can we wrap it
so
up?
I am happy to say, when we get out of executive session, as soon as I get the green light that says, sure, go ahead and say it, and I will say it. Because I have nothing to hide. And I understand the OPMA. And I am confident that we followed the procedure set out in state law to make the only personnel decision that we are allowed to make.
Just
All
in
right,
closing,
great.
I would.
You're done, sir. Thank you. Come back next week.
I will.
Next person is Emily Freed. Next person is Emily Freed.
Mayor.
Councilmember Spivey.
I just want to make a clarification, but I believe that here in the city of Bothell, we lost a case in Bothell v. Barnhart at the state Supreme Court that allows the public, during public comment, to name council members directly. And I just want to make sure that we're playing fair with everybody. I believe the public has that right because of Supreme Court decision against the city of Bothell.
City attorney, do you know? It's in our protocol manual that we don't allow that, but
I believe that's been changed.
I would actually have to go back and look at the case, but I do know that the courts have opined on the ability of citizens under the First Amendment to have discussions about what councils do and what council members do. But beyond that, I can't say tonight, I'm sorry.
I've got the protocol manual, so look at it. Emily Freed, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. My name is Emily Freed. I have lived in Bothell my entire life and love being a part of this community. I've been watching what's been going on in Council for the last 10 years and love seeing the positive changes happening in our city. My dad and many others have been a part of the good things happening in Bothell. I saw an article recently that listed Bothell as the #1 hottest community to live in the area. Leadership of past councils and community leaders who've worked with our former city manager, Bob Stowe, could say we all made amazing progress. I love meeting up with friends downtown, love Main Street, and excited for what's coming up. I think it's extremely disappointing you'd fire Mr. Stowe while he was on vacation with his family. He has a daughter my age. If someone fired my dad during our vacation when he couldn't be there to defend himself, it would be terrible. I couldn't believe when I heard he was fired the way he was. He deserves to be looked in the eyes, with respect, and give reasons for his termination. We all deserve to know. Mayor, you stated in your interview on King 5 in your own words that firing Mr. Stowe while he was on vacation was a good opportunity. Now you have an opportunity to apologize to Bob Stowe and the community for your behavior. Thank you.
Next is Lindy Freed.
Good evening, Council. My name is Lindy Freed. I've lived in Bothell City for 20 years now. I've watched the planning of downtown personally and professionally. We've seen the successful start of the revitalization of Bothell and King and Snohomish County. We have a long way to go, but it's exciting to see the many successes, including McMinimans, the saving of the North Shore Pool, which my kids love to swim in, the opening of 104 apartments, 6 Oaks, and the Beardsley Village. Bothell has been moving up over the past 10 years, creating a city center where we can gather with our friends and family, all while keeping our main street charming, including Alexis Cafe, Cozy Corner, and many others. Your most recent unadvertised rush decision to fire our stellar city manager, Bob Stowe, has caused ripples of concern to spread across our city, spilling into regions far past our border. Last year, my husband was falsely accused of wrongdoing. He supported the removal of executive session privilege, as well as encouraged an independent investigation. He knew, as did I, and many that know him, that he was innocent and didn't do anything illegal or unethical. Our family was eager to take steps to make sure true facts were open to the public. It was a freeing process to allow others to see the truth. Whether they choose to accept them or not, we had nothing to hide. I encourage you to remove executive session protection regarding all matters related to Bob Stowe's reviews and most recent firing. I encourage you to be open and transparent with citizens of Bothell by voluntarily sharing your emails and texts regarding your conversations of Bob Stowe's firing. If you have nothing to hide, as you say, we ask you to quickly take these actions and ask for an independent investigation of your apparent violations of your protocol manual and state law. By taking the step of an investigation, you can work to rebuild the trust that you've lost in the community by your decisions. You may find an open and honest process to be freeing for you, as it was for our family. Thank you.
Next is Shannon Field.
My name is Shannon. I actually missed last week's meeting because I was bringing my son home from college where he's studying to be a lawyer, funny enough. My family has had a business here in Bothell for almost 24 years. Helping Hands Thrift Store is not just a business, but we're a nonprofit. We give back to our community wherever we can. Every month, we deliver hundreds of dollars in gift cards to the North Shore School District and local churches to help families in need. Though the foundations of our organization was to create stable communities in unstable, uneducated communities in Peru, we have found helping here in Bothell has been a joy. When the community hit a recession, we, like everyone else, became worried. We wondered if we would be able to weather the storm. Not only did we weather the storm, we grew. And as more people in our communities found themselves in hard times, we were able to do exactly as our name said, give a helping hand. For the past 11 years, we have watched other businesses and nonprofits in our neighboring communities struggle to keep their doors open and sometimes even close altogether. We did not. My ego would love to say that it was my great leadership ability, but that's not 100% true. We've been blessed to be nestled in this thriving community where the leadership very clearly put the needs of ours over the needs of their own. Bob Stowe was a big part of that leadership. He has consistently kept us stable during unstable times. I'm shaking my head. Where I was once so proud and certain of the leadership, I no longer am. Last year, I was very proud of the leadership when they opened up and they said, independent review. I no longer see that. I see decisions being made that no longer put our best needs first. Last week, when I saw in an interview where I heard that outside counsel was taken and not our own city attorneys, I was shaking my head. We have great resources right here in our own city, and our council did not look or use the resources that we have voted and trusted them to use. I feel like if our own resources are not good enough for you, then maybe you shouldn't be serving our city. Thank you.
So that's the end of the sign-up sheets. Would anybody else like to give public comment? Going once, twice. Oh, there we go. Gene Zorns.
I'm speaking as a private citizen here. I did not know Bob Stowe. I had a few conversations with him. His going didn't move me to tears. I can say, from what I could see from the information that I had about him, he did two things really well. He was very good at hiring staff. I think the City of Bothell staff is fabulous. And I also think that he probably has some great negotiating skills. But I also know that when I've been out pounding the pavement for Bothell issues, that probably the sum total of people who support Bob Stowe have come here to these chambers. That voter after voter after voter after door that I went to, people gave the mandate to change the city, starting with the city manager. And it's normal protocol for city to change their city managers. So write him a raving review, thank him for his service, and move on and let our city do its job. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to give public comment? Nope. Okay, so we'll move on to our ordinance and resolutions. We have one that's AB 16-084, consider approval of resolution authorizing the city to make grant applications to the Salmon Recovery Funding Board. And we have John Keats, our Parks Director, to give a presentation.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I don't have a presentation tonight. The only reason this resolution is being proposed is this grant was originally written by Forterra, and the granting agency, the Recreation Conservation Office, would prefer that the city assume, I guess, sponsorship of this grant be for the reason that if successful, the city would be the underlying eventual fee owner of the Wayne Golf Course. So hence, that's the reason for the application. Otherwise, or the resolution, otherwise I would have submitted this with the previous resolutions we had earlier in the year.
Okay, great. Any discussion on the resolution? Councilmember Sandberg?
Move the recommended action.
Moved by Councilmember Sandberg, seconded by Councilmember Agnew. Let's place our votes. Passes unanimously. That was the quickest agenda item I think we've seen all year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks Director. So we're into our study session, AB 16-085, discussion regarding the interim city manager selection process. And we have the acting city manager, Peter Trotzen, to provide the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This too will be a short one, and what I'll do is basically summarize the AB that you have in front of you. And that is that following the decision on May 3rd to place City Manager Bob Stowe on paid administrative leave until his removal and his termination are effective, the council has stated their intent to engage the services of an interim city manager in order to continue progress toward council goals and maintain stable operations in the city. The council's process for engaging the services of this interim city manager may benefit from the development of selection criteria so that you can weigh the best candidate against or all candidates against these criteria. And those criteria may include strong leadership skills, an ability to maintain clear, regular, and consistent communication with all council members, an ability to help council improve its effectiveness, and perhaps significant importance, ability to assist the council in the selection of a new city manager. And of course, any other criteria that you would determine would be appropriate. Resumes and notices of interest have been submitted thus far and forwarded to you under separate cover. And you will review, if you like, if you approve this process, you'll review and discuss these resumes and notices of interest in executive session, comparing the candidates against the criteria that you've established, and then discuss which candidates best meet your goals for the interim city manager. The acting city manager, myself, I can then schedule interviews for the city council as a whole with each of those candidates in a subsequent executive session. And depending on the candidate chosen, a resolution or an ordinance to be considered an open session may be required as an enabling tool to implement the installation of the selected candidate as your interim city manager. The suggested time frame is as follows, that this evening we'll discuss this agenda bill in open session and convene an executive session to further discuss the criteria and to review resumes. And then on June 7th, council interviews to selected candidates in executive session, about 20 minutes per candidate. There's typically no public process or public input on the selection or appointment of an interim city manager. The public will have an opportunity to give their thoughts on finalist candidates for the city manager position at the final stages of the city manager recruitment process. So at this point, that completes my presentation, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chotzen. Do council members have any questions? Do hone in on the, what page is this? On page 61. So there's criteria that have been identified for us, but we can obviously change those and add to it. So any questions? Councilmember Sandberg?
So were you envisioning having all of the candidates here on June 7th for interviews?
The candidates that you select, yes.
Okay. And then,
Depending, of course, their availability too.
okay. And then you said that it's not typically a public process where members of the public would have an opportunity to meet with potential candidates?
We anticipate that the interim city manager will serve for about 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
I was just thinking that if the candidates were here and they were all here on one night, that might be an opportunity for members of the public who are interested to meet with them and ask questions if they're here, as sort of a, for lack of a better term, like a mixer ahead of time in advance of the meeting.
I think if you determine that's what you want to do, I don't see why that would be a problem, but that would be up to you all.
Okay. Well, I'd had interest from one group, but they might not want to invest the time if this is an interim person as well.
I'd recommend that you wait with making any changes until we discuss the process in the executive session.
Okay.
So from the dais, you want us to just talk to you about the criteria that we want to select as city manager?
Certainly, if you want to change if you want to talk publicly about changing the criteria, that I'm prepared to do. And then, of course, we can also talk in executive session later. But certainly we can talk now.
So anything else publicly that we should probably address? I guess we're all probably don't know whether or not we should ask things that we're supposed to be doing, asking questions in executive session about this or not. And
right. Do you have a specific question that's why I would recommend that you wait until after executive session, and then you can discuss in that session if there's stuff that you need to address in an open forum.
Okay. Well, I have one criteria I thought would be good, would be to have experience with economic development. That's not on the current list. And that was really my only addition.
Go ahead.
You already had a turn.
Well, I had a question, but I was going to suggest an additional criteria, but we can let the other council members speak first.
Does anybody else have any changes to the criteria or comments on this? Councilmember Spivey?
I agree with economic development. Then my comment would be is that I have all the faith and trust in our Peter in fulfilling this role, and I would prefer to, if we're going to go, I guess take a larger step and just not take the time, effort, and money to go to a interim city manager just to jump to a permanent position. And if we're looking at through the end of the year, I think there's stability in keeping Peter in the position if he's willing to do it for the remainder of the year until we can just go right to hiring a permanent city manager. That'd be my desire.
Councilmember Freed?
Great, thanks. So a few different questions. What is the cost of the search? Do we have an idea?
This is, the cost of a city manager search, I'm told, is about $22,000 plus expenses. That's a city manager, permanent. For the interim, it's not conducted in the same way. The people that you have as candidates will be hired at an hourly rate, and if they're represented by a consulting company, that consulting company will get a percentage of that hourly rate.
Okay, kind of like a lot of job search firms out there. We started receiving resumes last week, and this is the first time as a council we've had an opportunity to speak about this. How did that process get kicked off without the council initiating a process? Was that your idea as somebody else on council?
No, we took the step of consulting people about how that would be done. I would remind you that you can't name even an interim city manager until after Bob Stowe has been terminated, because we would then have two city managers at one time.
Right.
So this is just an effort to be prepared. There's always a possibility that, I suppose theoretically, that you wouldn't do this, but you can't do it until after his actual termination.
My question is, why are we receiving resumes unsolicited in our emails?
Well, actually, we were sent those resumes from various sources. I actually received them unsolicitedly. So
You did, so you didn't initiate a process?
No, I didn't go out and ask for them.
Great. The interviews that would happen on the 7th, would they just be back here in the room and we as a full council have the opportunity to sit with candidates?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's how I envision it. If you were open to any changes that you would like to make.
Yeah. How many candidates do you think that we'll actually have the opportunity to sit down with, and how many resumes total have we received that maybe we haven't seen?
We've received 4, and I would think that all 4 of those, the interest of all 4 of those is still current.
Okay. And then my comments would go to the obviously expensive firing Bob Stowe, I think is well over the 200,000 people might suggest. We'd have to hear from our Tammy Shackman to understand what that true cost might be. I think that we have a great man in you and great leadership team here within the city of Bothell that we can bond together at this time, for such a time as this, to represent the citizens and move forward over the next year, or however long the process might take, 6 months to a year, under your leadership and under the director's leadership that we have here. So that'd be my recommendation in regards to the process.
Any other comments? Councilmember Sandberg?
I'd like the additional criteria of someone with extensive budgeting experience and capital facilities plan experience, since those are the 2 items that we're going to be undertaking this year.
Anybody else like to comment on the process? We haven't heard, I think, from a quorum even yet about, so we've had a couple of things come up. 1 to 2 council members want to put the acting city manager in place as interim city manager, and the other would be to take this process by selecting somebody external to the city and bringing them in as the interim city manager until we place a new city manager. So it'd be good to hear people's opinion on that. One way or the other, and then if there's any more criteria, just add that into your comments. Oh, hold on a second, Councilmember McNeil.
So I'm actually open to both, but I think that when we need to discuss the option of the acting city manager with the acting city manager first before we make that decision, or how does that work?
I think that would be appropriate, yeah. We should probably do that. So I'll go now. So my suggestion would be to add Peter Trotzen as a candidate and allow him to go through the process with the other 4 applicants that we've received as interim city manager. I think he has done a great job. He's been with us for 2 years now, and I don't see why we would not allow him the opportunity to be the interim if he chooses. So, Councilmember Agnew, did you have a comment?
I would agree with that. I think Peter's done a great job, and I have all the faith in him, but I've also had some conversation with the individuals that stated that these are troubling times for the city. And the interim city manager, one of their main functions is to smooth some of the relationships that some of the staff have and to get us working in a different direction. But I'd be all in favor of having Peter throw his name in the ring or hat in the ring if he chooses to, and then continue on with the process.
Deputy Mayor, you're the only one.
I concur with Tom. I think I would love to have you be part of the process and to have that conversation.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is study session AB 16-086 regarding budget orientation and council consideration of the 2017-18 budget focus area and desired budget outcomes. And we have our Finance Director, Tammy Shackman.
Good evening. Would you rather go over the budget development presentation first, or would you prefer to go over the budget focus areas for the 17-18 budget? Do you have a preference?
It might help the new council members probably to do that part second, the outcomes, because they know, so they understand where it is in the process. And
Okay. Okay. We'll go ahead and do that then. The timing and development of the city budget is actually prescribed by state law, and the reason the legislature did that was because they wanted to assure that citizens had time to weigh in and councils had time to deliberate on the budgets. Per that state law, the city manager must submit a recommended balanced budget to council by November 1st. Revenues and expenditures tying out, which some states don't have to do. We use a collaborative approach and very decentralized, meaning that when we meet as a budget team, we have people from every department that sit in that have to actually use the budget money and spend the money. We want the people who are actually spending it to be involved and telling us what their needs are. And then that weighs very well with oversight. They know what they're spending, they're making sure things are going well and that type of thing. The other part is it engages the broadest number of people, council, community, staff throughout the organization. Right now, over the last couple years, maybe 3 years, we've heard a lot about transparency in government. It's kind of the buzzword and can mean a lot of different things, but going to different conferences and that, what it seems to mean in the financial world at least, is can citizens actually access the financial system on their own, go in and look up financial data and that type of thing. So we don't have that ability right now because of the limitations of our financial system, but we do want to and have worked very hard over the last 2 years to foster ownership of the budget and put together some budget tools and that type of thing for this upcoming budget process in order to try to engage citizens and have things where we can go out and do a budget presentation in different environments, the library, all over. So anyway, if I can do it here, I can do it somewhere else. I can also teach my staff to do it. So anyway, that is kind of our interim way of trying to provide this service before we actually have the funding for the New York open books, that type of thing. We collect public input and the council collects public input, both staff and the council, through conversations. We request public input, emails to the council, media posts, non-scientific surveys, and any other way we can get citizens involved. We have open houses and we can't get people to come. So we need to find ways to engage people in their daily life where we can meet up with them instead of them having to come to us. So we're looking at all kinds of different ways of doing that, and I know the Public Works Director is as well. We work together on the Capital Facilities Plan, and we're going to have the same issues with that process. So this kind of hits both. Now, the council takes all of this information and it enhances their understanding of what the community really wants and needs. And then, oops. The next thing they do is what we're hopefully going to do tonight, which is for the council to identify their broad budget goals, which are called budget focus areas. Those usually don't change from year to year. They usually have to do with the mission and vision of the city. But what the council really has an opportunity to do during the budget process is to identify the desired budget outcomes. And those are the things, the opportunities and challenges that the city has, and what council would like to see actually addressed during the ensuing biennium. And those are the actual documents from 15 and 16. And I gave each one of you one, and I also provided one for out on the table if anybody else is interested while we walk through this process. These are the things that we can come together and say, these are the things that we want to be the outcome of this budget process. What do we want to do? Is it the maintenance of the streets, or what areas do we want to focus on? And it helps us as staff to say, okay, this is what our direction is. This is what we've been told we need to accomplish. So the city manager, or the interim city manager, will develop a recommended budget based on these focus areas and budget outcomes. The council considers the recommended budget from the city manager, and that is when the public engages, provides additional input. The council makes adjustments based on that, and then the council adopts the ensuing 2-year budget. So that's the approach basically that we use, the overall approach. Everybody has a responsibility within the budget process. And so I'm just going to go over a few of those, how we've done it in the past. How we've done it in the past doesn't have to be how we do it in the future. We can do it differently, but we do need guidance as far as if council sees that they'd like things done a different way. Basically, the community engagement and participation is very important, and I kind of spoke on that we need to get the community more engaged or to feel that their voice is heard, that type of thing. We're working on that. One of the things is this timeline that you see. We're making every effort to make this an open and interactive process, and these are some of the dates that we have scheduled so far. Council responsibilities. The council, again, provides directions through the budget focus areas and the desired budget outcomes. And then also within their budget, the first 2 years, the capital facilities plan is folded into that. So the council will have, will participate in the CFP. The CFP committee will bring a recommended plan to you, and then the council will deliberate and make a final decision as to what they'd like to see going forward. There's also nationally accepted governmental budgeting and fiscal practices, such as reserve levels, expectations for one-time revenue uses,
consideration of future maintenance costs before capital projects are constructed. Those type of fiscal policies are also go with the budget and help to identify how we go about it and then how we oversee it as it moves forward through the 2 years. The council decides on taxation levels, sales, property, and utility tax, and you adopt a fee schedule which up to now has been pretty much adhered to a full cost recovery philosophy. Again, council's budget development guidance helps ensure that the final recommended budget that we bring to you serves the needs of the city, adequately funds services delivery expectations, matches resource to community goals, outlines a clear spending plan that makes sense, and provides a means for quarterly oversight. The city manager, again, uses that information to put together his recommended budget. He also is responsible, or she is responsible for balancing the projected general fund revenue with expenditures to create a fiscally and operationally responsible spending plan. The city manager is also required by law to prepare the city's official budget call, which defines the parameters and guidelines for budget development. And we'll talk about some of those today, and then the city manager uses that information and he takes what he gets from the council and then puts that into the budget call letter. So you definitely weigh in on that. The finance director by state law projects revenues. We're working on that right now. I don't do it all myself. But once we have those revenues, then I'll be back to talk to you again, and that's when we'll really look at revenues and expenditures and some of the other processes we're going to need to go through. We have to decide, once we know the numbers, we know whether or not we need to contract or if we can grow. So the finance director also assists the city manager in balancing departmental requests, oversees production of the city manager's recommended budget document. Directors are the ones who actually prepare their proposed work plans for the city manager. Again, that's done in accordance with this council's desired budget outcomes. Directors have discretion over the multitude of line items included in their budgets and are accountable to the city manager for service delivery. The city of Bothell actually budgets at a fund level. So within some of the public works funds, that public works director would have full say over the multitude of line items that are there. But the council can actually see those budget line items. We can provide detailed budget reports. You can actually drill down as far as you want to see what is in each one of those line items. And you can see years of data and compare that and look at it. We have a modified zero-based or a modified, zero-based budget. Basically, start from scratch, build it up, provide detail until you have a budget that provides the services, the level of service that you want, that type of thing. And then we work backwards depending on where our revenues are. Again, the department directors provide a budget team. We all work together. We make sure that we create the communication is good, and we create a budget development calendar that works for all departments and all staff. And that helps to assure the accuracy of the data that we receive by working with the people who actually spend the money and perform the services. So we know what they need, what they're missing, that type of thing. Each department director has a budget coordinator assigned who meets with the finance director. That person really coordinates the full budget process for their department and makes sure that the right people are involved with each decision-making process. So then to balance the budget, or the recommended budget, the city manager, assistant city manager, and finance director analyzed the departmental budgets. And again, we prioritize those based on what the council has given us as direction. The result of that is the city manager's biennial budget. The proposed budget document is a recommended operational guide prepared for council and public examination and deliberation. So that is just one part, is delivering that proposed document. And at that point, that's when the real deliberation begins. The budget document, again, what council will want to look at is to make sure that the spending plan and the operational plan clearly tie to your desired budget outcomes. Once the budget is adopted, it's a planning guide for managing and overseeing city resources. It's very important at that time that we follow that budget through the ensuing 2 years. We're constantly having to analyze through quarterly reports or revenue assumptions proving true. Are capital projects being built as planned? Are the revenues coming in? We need to make sure those revenues are in before we start projects. So it doesn't stop once the budget gets adopted. That's really a starting point for our operations and for the 2 years. State law requires the finance director to prepare and provide a quarterly budget report to the council and city manager. We have a budget report that we have done a lot of work on. We started just this last quarter at the end of 2015, and basically in about 2 minutes a person can do a full overview of the budget to see if we are on track, we're meeting our marks, that type of thing. They can reconcile the budget to what the plan is and assure that basically when you start a budget, you have, here's where we want to have our reserves. Then you have inflows and outflows. So you contract, if revenues are not coming in where you want, you need to contract the expenditures in order to maintain that fiscal position. And that is how we manage our budget. We're constantly doing this. Strong oversight of the general fund operations and the city's resulting strategic fiscal position is vital, so city management has the information necessary. This is very important to recognize the need for a budget modification, deliberate on possible corrective actions, and implement a timely budget modification in order to preserve that fiscal position that we want to be at. Because of our actions during the Great Recession and the aftermath, while a lot of entities, their credit ratings went down, ours actually went up. And it's because we follow this process of fiscal position, and we were prepared, informed, and we took prompt action, and we got kudos from that, from the rating companies. The city's budget documents since 2002 have always received the highest level of government budgeting. Basically, the Government Finance Officers Association, United States and Canada Distinguished Budget Presentation Award assesses how well an entity's budget serves as a policy document, financial plan, operations guide, and a communications device. Cities alone, to put it into perspective, cities alone in Washington State are about 280. That doesn't include school districts, it doesn't include hospitals, it doesn't include counties or state agencies. And throughout the United States and Canada, there's 1,424 entities that have this award right now. So we're kind of proud of that. I'm just going to read this because it's important. City management recognizes its ethical and fiduciary responsibility to wisely budget and account for public funds, as well as the importance of doing so in an open and transparent manner that provides for community participation and oversight. This is what we are working very hard on and trying to achieve over the last 2 years. And because our financial system does not have the capability to provide that open access, we kind of found a workaround. And it's much more manual, it's not very fancy, but it provides the information. There are 3 tools basically, and there's also a budget development site. This is all out on the web, by the way. Our hope is to educate in multiple manners through, with individuals and groups at people's request. And basically they can go online for budget engagement and actually send an email right from there and ask to set up a meeting to come in. You can also ask to have reports written for you. The website explains what reports are available, and we will actually sit down and go over them with citizens, because every person we educate is going to be informed, and they'll walk away knowing that they were heard and listened to, and that they can share that with others. And we're hoping that maybe we can get people, not at an open house, but at least get them engaged in the process and get their viewpoints. So this is what people will see when they go out to the engagement page on the website. They can watch the video of the Bothell High football team, which is a about a 4-minute video, I believe, that basically really explains in kind of a fun way about the road maintenance issues that we have, and some real high level, get people a little bit interested, just draw them in. It's only 4 minutes. It's not going to give them all the answers or anything like that, but it might engage some people. So we're trying different things to engage different people, younger people, older people, that type of thing. So we're trying all markets. This is the budget timeline that we've put together so far with each one of the months and what people can expect. And these are all areas where citizens and interested parties can be engaged and participate. This is basically what they see at the end, because we want feedback. And then we have budget overview. This is kind of a cool tool, and actually will be able to be used in-house as well. Bothell's budget is about 500 pages, maybe a little less. But there's a lot of sections. It's huge, it's cumbersome. But there's a lot of information in it. It's really good. It's got the fiscal policies. It's got how our chart of accounts works. So when you do have a report given to you, you can actually look in the book and determine, okay, so the 1000 series object code, that is salaries and benefits, that type of thing. So there's a lot of things that we can teach people to do. But it's a huge document. It's overwhelming. We've tried putting pictures and making it attractive, hopefully, and still nobody reads it. So this was our solution. I've got some people in my department with some pretty good graphic skills. Anyway, we come down here. And basically, there's a page of information that is just that, information on the fiscal policies, that type of thing, where to go to see them. But this is the real interesting tool here. This just took a 500-page document and put it on one page. You can literally click out through a hyperlink to any page in the book, okay? Not only that, but this, like in the introduction, it says all these different things, you know, what it is. The introduction, which is the budget summary, summarizes budget and ties impacts back to the council's desired budget outcomes. Okay, so then you just click on any one of these, the city manager's budget, message, desired budget outcomes. You could click over here into the appendixes. Appendices provide supplemental information that helps further explain the organizational structure. So you can go out to the organizational chart. There it is. You can see all kinds of anything in the document. So people can just put this on their desktop. Every citizen or every employee. So we're really hoping the employees get something out of this too. So, I mean, if they want to look up, if an employee wants to know, what's my classification and my salary range? There it is. If you want to find out, well, what does that mean? You know, what is that finance term? You go to glossary and acronyms and it will come up. The expenditures accounts that I talked about a minute ago, and I don't know why that's not working now because I'm in the wrong spot. I think I hit it too many times. Anyway, let's try. There we go, because I'm in the wrong spot. I'm going to get better at this before I actually do it at the library. We've been practicing all day. Okay, so here's the glossary, and you can look things up. You can do a find to find the word, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, now as far as budget goes, let's say you're interested in capital and you want to see what's in the capital facilities plan. You can actually go Capital Improvements Fund. And here is the section in the book that describes all the projects. And then the cool thing about this, keeping in mind that this is on your desktop, you can, everything is hyperlinked. You can go straight to the capital facilities plan from here. So it's, what we tried to do is make it easy, thinking that easy would, and make it kind of fun. For people to quickly just look at stuff, find what they're interested in, because this budget, not all of it is important to everybody. There's little sections that are important to everybody. Obviously, all of it's important to us because we have to balance it. But to a lot of the people, our citizens, they just want to know how it affects them and what it's going to do for them. And so this is kind of our, kind of hokey, but it's not New York Open Books, but it's Bothell Open Books. Okay, this is the budget oversight. This is the quarterly report. This is where people, once we get that budget together, this is what people really, in 2 minutes, they can really find out, are they doing what they said they were going to do? How are they spending money? Where's the financial position? All that kind of stuff. This report will tell all, and they only have to look at as much of it as they want. They can literally just look at the citywide graph and the general fund graph and know that we're on target. And they, you know, some people might not want to know any more than that, but people that do can actually drill down further and get more information. The other thing is here is the request for budget reports. Right now we only have the general fund, street fund, and capital improvement fund. The reason why is because those are very self-explanatory. I want to get so we have all funds, but I need to have time to find an easy way to put it out on the web where it's not overwhelming when where I have 24 funds sitting out there, nobody knows what they are, you know. The cemetery fund, you know, I mean, different things. So we wanted to start kind of small, so we'll hopefully get feedback from people who come in for the training, and just the interaction of this is how it works, you know. And then we'll add funds as we go forward. But right now it will go into a finance, it goes to the finance department, and to a couple different staff, and they will actually run your report. PDF it, and send it back to you. So no effort. Nobody has to leave their house. You know, they can just ask for it, and there it is. It shows the revenues and expenditures, by the way, so they can actually tie those. One of the things that we'll tell people when they ask for the reports, because of accounting requires accruals, because revenues and expenditures don't always tie out in the same quarter or whatever, even though they tie out based on you've earned something but you haven't received it. So anyway, unless you actually have a hard close, which I would have to double my staff in order to do, we will never, ever be able to do the open books like New York. I was in New York recently, that's why I keep bringing it up, but anyway, it was pretty impressive. But anyway, we will probably always be a couple months behind because we don't want to put information out there that isn't good. That's what we're finding. The last class that I went to on the open books type of government, the biggest problem is that a lot of times the information they're giving is not accurate. It's changing constantly. So a citizen can run a report 1 hour and an hour later it'll be different because it's interactive. And so there's a lot of things that change. There's also maybe a government decided to move a significant fund or move monies from one fund to another or do something that you can have big numbers that can really skew the outcome. And so you really have to know what's out there. You have to be able to explain what they're looking at, or it can be overwhelming or upsetting even when they think that there's no revenues. We keep spending or something like that. When you can explain it, but you really need that interaction. So this is the budget development site. And basically what happens here is everything the city is doing in budget through the development of this budget will be out here. This presentation is out on the web already. Okay, so everybody's going to get access to this. We're also going to hand these out at every open house and every fair and everything else we can. This is actually the budget development tasks. This is every task that city staff goes through, every single step. We sit down together, we put this together, every step, make sure it works for everybody, and then this is how we complete a budget process. We can add or take away steps, but we do it as a group to make sure that the timing works for everybody. And so those are the steps. Everybody's going to have access to all of it. The other thing is about this that's cool is here's the key department. Actually, I just hit the wrong one, sorry. Everything in here is hyperlinked, so you can go anywhere and move around in it. This is the city manager's budget call letter. And what we put out here is when they can expect to see it, even though it's not available now and we only have last year's, but they know that it's coming and it's very clear. They'll see it in October of 2016 is when it will be updated, so they can make a note and go back and get that. Here's the budget video. This is the budget calendar, city manager's budget process letter that went out to the council. You guys all received this. Everything that we were putting out there is going to go out on this website. So every citizen, any person who's interested, any business owner knows exactly what we're doing, where the dates are. And even if they only look at a couple things that they find interesting, if we can get them to do that and get interested enough to come in and talk to us, they'll share. That's what we're hoping for. So that's where we're at with that. So in conclusion, we do have more to talk about, but it'll be in the next steps. But basically a successful budget is everybody understanding the strategic direction of the city and adopting a balanced budget that implements efficiencies, uses the community resources to achieve the council's desired budget outcomes while fostering the community's long-term vision as outlined in the council's budget focus area. So everything keeps coming back to that council's focus areas and the council's desired budget outcomes. Everything ties back to that. Everything that we put together in the budget is going to tie back to that. And as a matter of fact, we actually have a chart. And when we decide how to spend our money as directors, it says the focus areas, there's like 5 focus areas, everyone gets checked because we look to see if we're spending our money the way the council has prescribed, basically. And that's how, citizens are telling you what they want. So anyway, that is that. Now, this is the tough part.
Could I interrupt you for just a second? So we were supposed to take a break at 8 o'clock, and I just wanted to check with it how people are doing. I know some people really count on those breaks happening on time.
This can go with the other section, so this is a good break point for me.
Should we do that? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 8:20.
Thank you.